Welcome to the Fantasy Happy Hour. Fantasy Happy Hour. Presented by Sportsneak. With your hosts, Justin Sauce and Terry Licious. Starting in 3, 2, 1.
Boom. Here we go. Fantasy Happy Hour. Week 9, episode 87. We got the perfect 7-0 Eagles and the 1-5-1 Houston Texans, aka my favorite team, which is very unfortunate. Both teams coming off quite the week. Eagles just beat the Steelers 35-18 or 35-10.
Yeah, 13, I think.
Yeah, some BS like that. Texans just lost a snoozer to division rivals, the Titans, 17-10. And boy, oh boy, Taryn, is this one going to be quite the either blowout, or does Houston just be the ones to put an L in the Eagles column because they come unprepared? What do you got for this one?
Yeah, this is like a David versus Goliath moment, whatever you want to call it. Basement versus the ceiling. Holy, this is, if you look at stats on this one, you're going to see a lot of 5-1 lineups, I think, this week. And I think that's probably a mistake. These island games are games where teams are definitely in what you might call a letdown spot. This Eagles team might come in, I think, just as you said it, a little bit less ambitious for this one. I think they still win this game, but the spread's 13. I imagine that's going to grow. This is a game where, well, I'll dive into it here with quarterbacks. I mean, Jalen Hurts, easily one of the best in fantasy this year, especially on DraftKings. They use him in the red zone a ton. He's got 6 rushing TDs on the season already. And if you look at this rush defense, 30th ranked Houston D, they're giving up about 208 yards per game rushing. But I think this is one of those spots where this could be such a blowout that Hurts is probably just not going to want to run the ball, risk injury. I think they might lean more on their running backs, which are kind of as a split backfield. But I mean, Hurts is definitely one of the best plays. Averages 26 fantasy points. They need to get out to a lead early. So I imagine he's going to get his points there, and he'll get up to that 20 mark, I believe. Again, you got to watch. I just don't see a reason to fade him in this matchup. It's just too easy across the board. The pass D is okay. Actually, I looked it up for the Houston Texans. It seems like it's the better part of their defense overall, but his rushing upside is just a bit too good, I think, and he's going to get those points early and kind of get up in this game, I do believe. So I think he is definitely a play. Davis Mills on the other side, this is probably one of the hardest matchups you're going to get in the league right now. Actually, it is. They are the best pass D, 2 of the best cornerbacks in the league, and Bradbury and Slay on the outside against a receiving core that is weak, injured a bit. Nico Collins, I don't know if he'll play this week. I mean, they rely on Brandon Cooks, but he hasn't shown anything, nor has Davis Mills getting him the ball. So I think his ownership is going to be drastically low, and I think they're going to be trailing this entire game, which in Showdown we like. So maybe he gets there just off them getting ahead by so much that it doesn't matter. So we did see this. This is what I was going to add as a note. In the Green Bay Bills game, the Bills got out to an early lead. The best lineups were actually 3 Packers in the lineups because there's just so much more volume that you're going to see from the losing and trailing team, whereas the leading team's just going to run the ball 2 downs pretty much every drive, every series. So this could be a matchup where you take Davis Mills as a sneaky in, but I think this is not a good spot overall. Definitely Jalen Hurts is kind of a lock if you want him to be. We'll move to running back here. This running back group for the Eagles is a bit interesting. Miles Sanders is the lead back, but again, they're kind of running all 3. So Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, I think even Scott saw 7 carries and Miles Sanders only 9 last week in a 35-13 win. So this one's really script dependent. If you think that this is a blowout, I would go to the deeper guys because I think Sanders is the guy they want to keep healthy. So again, this game is just so interesting because last week Derrick Henry, what did he have? 240 some yards. I don't even know. It was big. It's a big number. He had 3 touchdowns. I guess it'd only be 2 on 17, but they got annihilated on the ground, and they are a really, really bad run D. So this could be a game where you play 2 running backs from the Eagles. Maybe that is Sanders who gets there. He has been very efficient, even though he just doesn't get the amount of carries because Hurts steals all the goal line work too. So this is an interesting one. The best play, in my opinion, on the Texans side comes here, though. Dameon Pierce, he's looked awesome all year. He's averaging about 15, 16 DK points. He got one through the air, which I like to see, especially in this type of matchup, which means they're using him in the passing game. Gotta love that. He's comes out of that Brandon Cooks trade tree, but he's been really, really good. He's kind of the bright spot of this offense, and I think he's that run back, or at least one of the run backs.
Are you playing something? Oh,
no.
Sorry. My computer was playing volume. I thought it was yours. But Brandon Cook, Dameon Pierce also averaging 77 yards a game, which obviously is his utilization has went up week over week. And if you look too, he's at four TDs the last 5 weeks, one each week. So he's definitely probably the strongest play on the Texans side, and the only play at running back, quite honestly.
That's true. Yeah, it's I think he is the play, especially now that I know he has a bit of a passing role. That kind of helps when you get one through the air in a game script that you expect to be pass heavy. He's kind of a perfect safety blanket for a bad quarterback. So let's see how this goes. Wide receiver, AJ Brown got drug tested today after basically walking into the end zone 3 times. Huge week in fantasy last week. Wide receivers, there was like 4 guys with 3 touchdowns, I think, or more. So I had 2 of them in my fantasy roster. So this wide receiver core, though, for the Eagles is pretty good overall. AJ Brown got there last week. I think everybody's going to chase that. 3 TDs, over 140 yards, and I think that was in the first half. Almost, he was walking by that defense, and Pittsburgh doesn't have a great pass D. This is a better pass D. I'm sure you can speak more to it. I don't know a ton about the Texans pass D. I know it ranks right in the middle. Which is better than the Pittsburgh D, actually. So Devontae Smith, though, I think is the better option in this game. I think they mix it up. He's had a great year. He's averaging still 15 points as the second receiver in. He just doesn't have the blow up spots like AJ Brown. I think he's a good play in a game where, you think they're going to get out to a lead. They're going to run the ball a lot. Again, that top receiver might just slowly work back his role through this game if they're winning big. Zach Pascal got in the end zone last week on two targets. Both he caught both, and then he got in the end zone on a long play. Him and Mr. Quez Watkins seem to be battling for that third wide receiver in. So I think they're both options in this game. You have to kind of pick it right in a game you expect to be a blowout. So you got to hit that right receiver. I think that's maybe Devontae Smith this week. That's kind of my thoughts. And if we move to the Texans side, this is a Cooks, Collins, Moore, Dorsett seems to be the guy coming in lately.
Well, Collins was out this past Sunday, so
yeah, and
I don't know if he'll be back by Thursday.
Yeah, short week too. I don't see that being the best move to put him in against this defense either. This is a tough, hard-hitting defense, so probably not good for a rookie you kind of want longevity with. Cooks is the number one here. He gets the most targets, highest usage. They're likely to be trailing, so he'll see volume. You could see him be a good run back option. Chris Moore had 2 weeks ago, had a 5 target game, follows it up with a goose egg. Didn't see it. I don't even think he saw a target last week. So that one's kind of interesting. Philip Dorsett, I guess from ages ago, we find Philip Dorsett again. He caught 5 last week, so maybe he's an option at probably a very cheap price. And then again, I said this Sunday night where the Bills were leading by a lot, we saw 2 wide receivers in Samori Toure, I think was his name, and I forget the other, Romeo Dobbs, I don't know how to say it, both being that winning lineup. So you could see 2 of these guys get a lot of volume in a losing game. Go to tight end. One of the best options on the Eagles is Derek Goddard, 6 to 8 targets a game, but only 1 touchdown all season. So I think that could regress. Maybe he gets the 1 touchdown early in this game. And then the other side, Brevin Jordan how OJ Howard and Akins, pick your poison or fully fade these guys. The expectation was when Brevin Jordan came back from injury, he was going to be the guy. He was seeing 70% of the snaps over the other guys, but the production isn't there, and this is a very tough game to be hopeful that they break out. So,
well, honestly, on the tight end side, your best bet is probably Jordan Akins. He's seen the most consistent, he's putting up the most consistent yardage, and he seems to be sneaking. I think he's the only one. I think he's only got one TD, but he's always getting that one or two deep passes where, he gets 20, 30 yards and kind of will spike up your fantasy points. OJ Howard has been not really utilized since week 1, to be honest. It was really just that 1 week, and then he's been kind of just put into the third string tight end position. And then, yeah, I mean, you're probably good depending on what your game script is and what the pricing is when it comes out. I mean, you're probably good to just fade the tight ends on the Texans. If you really want to be different, you could take Akins, just hoping that he's going to get you those 10, 11 points to, at that hopefully cheap price at around 4K, but not much else there.
Yeah. I was just about to pass to you. I just had one more thing. I think the Eagles D certainly in play here. They have had big games. If they get in the end zone, they'll probably be in the lineup at that 5K. They'll probably be one of the most expensive defenses we'll see in showdown all year in this matchup. But, if they're too high, they might not be worth it. They do tend to underperform against the easier opponents. You do notice that with them a little bit. And that won't lead to a ton of production. They only scored, I think, 14 last week in a game they blew the other team out. So that's maybe not enough in this game at their price being probably very high in showdown. So I don't know if you've got anything on kickers here. I don't know much about them.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously on the Texans side, we got Kaimi Fairbairn, who is usually every year one of their most reliable players. He's been pretty good this year. He's had a few missed field goal attempts, which has been, one of them was really short and disappointing, but he's averaging 8.8 fantasy points per game. He's 13 for 15 on the year. Good at hitting those long ones. He's got 3 over 50 yards. The long being 55-yarder this year. He's 11 for 11 on the extra points. Again, I would probably fade him in this matchup, especially if you expect the Eagles to be scoring a lot and Texans going back the other way. I mean, it's hard to say if you're expecting them to hit a lot of field goals, then sure, I guess you could mix it in there, a few of the lineups, but I would rather stick with the upside on taking like Pierce or Akins or Cooks and sliding one of them. I mean, we know Cooks and Pierce are going to be expensive on the Texans end, and that's really it. So, I mean, depending on what kind of budgets you're working with and what you have left in your lineups, you could throw him in there. I don't think it hurts to have him in a couple of the scenarios, but he's not a lock like last week's Justin Tucker, I'll tell you that. And then going to the other side of the ball, Jake Elliott, I mean, fade for sure. 5.7 fantasy points per games. Eagles are just too good to be using him. He's 6 for 7 on field goals. So that's really where you get all your points. And if you're getting 1 a week, not even worth it. 20 for 21 on the extra points though, but unfortunately those don't give you enough DK points to actually justify drafting them. And only 1 over 50 yards, 51 yarder for the longest on the year. Really all I got for the double doink. So we'll leave it there. One other thing I just wanted to add in, on Texans defense side, they had Derek Stingley Jr. He's one of the rookies they drafted this year in the first round. He was covering Alvin Kamara the other week one-on-one and held him pretty much off the DK fantasy points last week. So something to look out for. Maybe look into a little bit more if you're thinking about having AJ Brown in all your lineups and looking at that, if that will be if that's who he'll be covering and on the assignment. But yeah, anything else to add into this one, Taryn?
No, I think maybe I'm looking for a word. I would avoid the 5-1 stack. I think it's going to be mega popular here. I think that onslaughting Eagles and AJ Brown specifically could be very overowned just off his games last week. This running game probably will be under-owned for the Eagles, but I think this is the spot to use them. They're just tend not to produce at the same level as the passing game. But that would be my lean to get different in this. I think it's going to be a lot of Eagles. So find ways to be unique in a big showdown slate.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys for watching. If you like the videos, give us a thumbs up. Let us know who you're taking in the comments. And if you really like any of our stuff, please subscribe. It really helps. And we will see you guys next week for week 10. Peace.